Alright, what do you got for me here?
Just a bit.
Oh dear God. Oh man. And it goes all the way to the back of the trunk?
Yep.
Okay, I think I've got my work cut out for me here. Wow, look at this Zenith, is so cool. It's like a butterfly design or something on it. We've got NAD, we've got Technics, we've got Sony. Oh, we've even got stuff in the front seat too. What even is that? Oh, I see vacuum tubes. This could be exciting. Hey everyone, in today's video, we've got a 1960s Zenith AM/FM radio. As you just saw, I got a big score of vintage equipment, a lot of it tube stuff like this radio here. It all came from my sister-in-law's father, so thanks to her for getting this all up here during a visit recently. As you can see, we've got some original artwork on here from probably the 1960s based on the color of this paper. I don't know where I'd buy paper that color today. So unfortunately, I think I need to take it off. I might have left it if this was the same color. And I really appreciate what the previous owner has done here, but I think it's got to go. So anyways, let's take a quick tour of this thing, tell you what it's all about, and then we'll bring this up on the Variac like most old tube gear, and use an isolation transformer. So let's get to it. So based on my research, this is from the 1960s. I don't remember the model number right now, but I'll show you the back of this thing where it says the model number. And you see we have two separate pieces here. This right here is the left speaker. It's got a separate input for it on the back of this main unit right here. We've got both AM and FM radio, and then we've got our various controls right here. Not too much going on here. That one's for tuning on the right, and then these two, looks like you pull the tone knob in and out to turn it on and off. Then you've got an integrated balance and volume control. Let's take a look at the back now. This appears to be very similar construction to the 1950s Zenith we worked on recently. I'm thinking we just take these screws out and this whole thing kind of pulls back out. And there's some little pins that this goes into. Maybe, but we'll find out. But yeah, here is the model number, the chassis number, and the watts and amps. And there's that little place where you connect the speaker. So, very cool piece of equipment right here. I'm excited to turn this thing on and see if it even works or not. So let's go ahead and do that. Right, we're not going to worry about the left speaker for now. I'm sure it works just fine, even though this connector looks really sketchy. I don't know, maybe it doesn't. But let's work on getting this taken apart and see what's going on inside of here. And we need a flathead screwdriver, my favorite. And it looks like we have two missing screws at the bottom, so somebody has been here. We'll find out why in a minute, or maybe what they did. Okay, I think we just slide this back now, so let's try that out. Maybe. Yep, sure is. Alrighty, so how can we position this here? Ooh, alright, take a look inside of here. Dusty. But, from what I can tell, I think these are all original Zenith tubes in here, so not much has been done to this thing. I don't see anything terrible, so I'm just going to assume that this might still work. I'm going to bring it up slowly on the Variac, and we'll see what happens. Now, a quick safety lesson on bringing up tube gear, and I am guilty of breaking this rule before I knew, so I'll just talk about it now, I guess. This is an isolation transformer, and what the isolation transformer does is it basically, well, isolates the 120 volts AC happening on this end from what's happening in the wall. So basically there's no connection between this and the rest of the house per se. So what that means is when you're working on tube gear like this, it's generally hot chassis, which means that 120 volts AC, you can touch the chassis and get that right to you. Modern stuff, the chassis is ground or earth grounded, so you don't get that, and it's much safer. So basically, if I had this plugged into the wall and I touched it and part of my body was making contact with another part of the room or house that was finding its way back to neutral on the power grid, I'd get a real nasty shock here. But with this, that won't happen unless I do something really stupid. And the reason we've got the 3-prong to 2-prong adapter on here is so that earth ground which is different from neutral, doesn't actually become neutral per se. Watch videos on isolation transformers if you want to know more about this. They explain it much better than I just did. But the main takeaway I'm trying to give you here is that if you want to be safe when working on old tube gear, you want to get yourself one of these bad boys. Now, this is a variac right here. And what this variac does is it allows us to vary the voltage going to whatever's plugged into it. So right here you can see that we have 0 volts right here. I've got it set to load. If I crank this up, you'll see the voltage go up. And it's kind of in line with what you're seeing here. Well, no, this is 0 to 100%. So if I wanted 120 volts AC, I'd just put it right around here. I can also bring this up to like 150, which is kind of cool. But for our purposes, we want this low. And the reason we're going to do this is there's nice old crusty capacitors in here that would like to reform if they had the opportunity. And putting them on the variac and bringing this up slowly gives them that opportunity, basically. So we're going to see what the heck happens here. So variac is set to 0 volts. The tuner is turned off. So let's pull this to turn it on. And what I'm going to do is go faster than you probably should. Interesting. We've already got a little bit of AC coming out of the speaker. Maybe you can hear that. And it gets louder as we bring this up. So either we just don't have enough voltage or something is wrong. So let's bring it up a little higher. It's getting louder. And the volume's turned down, by the way. Not a fan of that. But for the sake of entertainment, we might as well just take it up to the 120 and see what happens. Okay, so here we are at the 120, and no, actually it is working. Oh, okay. So it actually works, but it sounds like we probably have a capacitor issue or something. An AM. What do we get? Oh, jeez. So that AC hum does not go away even when there's music. Real quick, I want to show you how how this thing works. This is really neat. So you see that little blue dot? That's for the where the tuner is. And then when I switch to FM, we get an orange dot up top. So that's pretty neat. I was wondering, how do you know where it's tuned? Because I was moving this, I didn't see any like needle or anything. So that's pretty neat. Okay, so let's turn that off. I think we have a brief idea of what we're in for here. We've got real bad AC in here, so that would, to me, would be indicative of a failed power supply something. So I think I would start looking at some of the main capacitors in there that are related to power. And what else? I don't know, it's a mystery. Regardless, it looks like it'll be a pretty fun project, so we'll see how it goes. this all nice and cleaned up. I took the compressed air to it like you saw, and well, we've got a nice beautiful bronze, copper, something chassis here. Now what I want to do is I want to power this up because I've looked at something and I think I've already found one big problem. So since there's constant AC hum in this thing the entire time, that to me says there's a big issue with the power supply. There's two main things in the power supplies for these. You have this guy right here. This is a selenium rectifier, noted by these fins here. This is basically an early diode. And then this is our multi-section capacitor, and it contains the filter capacitor for the selenium rectifiers. I looked at the schematic, and the selenium rectifier is supposed to be putting out 140 volts DC. So let's take a look at what's actually happening here with our multimeter. We'll set her to DC, and to turn this thing on you gotta put this stupid thing back on. I really don't like this design as a technician, because now I gotta do this. Okay, there's that, and now it's just haphazardly whatever. So yeah, we've got that, and I've still got this on the variac, but the variac is set to 120 volts. So now we are turned on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure from chassis right here to the selenium rectifier output. And you see we've got 60 some volts and dropping. That's real bad. That's real not ideal. We're supposed to have 140 volts DC right there, so that to me is a great indicator that something is very wrong with this radio. So I think what I'm going to do first is I'm going to disconnect that multi-section capacitor, and we're going to get some readings on that to see if it's actually okay. I'm pretty sure we're going to need to order new capacitors for that, and we're going to do it the dirty way. Okay, so I disconnected the multi-section filter capacitor, and that's this thing right here. You can see some loose wires. I want to walk through and show you what I found. So I have this one attached to the case, and I'm going to go through and attach each section to the clip here. So let's start with this one. This is supposed to be 60, and it's 55, so, you know, not terrible. This one down here is supposed to be 150. And we'll get to that in a second here. And this one up here is also supposed to be 150. So 123, it's not 150, but yeah. Let's go back to this one here. This is the one that our selenium rectifier is going to. And you can see the meter doesn't react. And that's because it's not sensing anything. So one section of this multi-section capacitor is just completely gone. It's an open circuit. There's nothing going on there anymore. So what that means is I can reconnect the two that are good, and then for the one that is bad, I'm just going to wire in this real quick. This is a 100 microfarad 200 volt, and that should give us, you know, something to work with to see if this thing is actually working or not. And then once this is in, maybe our selenium rectifier will give us the 140 volts we need. Probably not, but it'll be interesting to see if it gets higher than it was. Aha, we have a special visitor. I wanted to say that this little one here doesn't get here very often because this room is no longer on the way to her litter box. So she has to go out of her way to come in here and say hi. And she does not do that as often as she used to in the old place. But it's always great to be graced with her presence, of course. Alright, we have a nice temporary fix here. We have a 200 volt, 100 microfarad Nichicon PW capacitor in place of the broken 150 microfarad section of the multi-section capacitor here. The two sections that are good, I've wired those things back in sloppily because, you know, eventually that whole thing is going to get replaced. And now what we get to do is turn this back on and see if our voltage at our selenium rectifier is any different than it was. And maybe that won't explode. I'm pretty sure I have this. Yeah, I gotta get the polarity right. I don't know if hot chassis makes a difference. So let's do that. Okay, here goes. See if it explodes. Okay, we're turned on. Let's go right in and... Fuck, we're not turned on. Gosh, I keep forgetting to plug this stupid thing. Okay, let's turn this back on and see what happens. Okay. I'm being too safe, everybody. I got the isolation transformer. Okay, this is the third time I'm trying this now. Let's turn this on and see if it works. And now I know it's going to be okay. Everything's turned on. Okay, what do we get? Oh, well that's a lot better, don't you think? I'm thinking we're going to get an actual working radio now, because we have an actual capacitor helping out our good old selenium rectifier. Now the selenium rectifier probably still needs to be replaced, but for now we're just going to see if we get actual sound. Okay, you gotta like basically put this whole thing back together to test it, so that's just in there now. That's gonna be enough for now. It can be corrected and done properly later, even though honestly it's not that bad. It's actually pretty okay. Alright, let's put it back together. Okay, that wasn't too bad. And now let's turn the radio on. Okay, the AC hum is already much quieter. So, let's turn the volume up now.
Congress, the Senate, the President. They're all at the top of the news every day. To help Christians make sense of what's going on in Washington, D.C.
Donald selected factories.
I gotta say, it's pretty incredible what changing that filter capacitor did for us. It actually works now. We actually have sound out of things, which is excellent. It's obviously not completely up to snuff yet, because there's still a lot of old tired components in there, but we've replaced the most important one, which is the filter capacitor for the DC power. So I'd call this a pretty good success. Let's see if the left speaker works now with the everything fixed up here.
Especially right here, blessedbeats.com live.
Yes. Welcome to the Blessed Beats Live Weekend Syndicated Show. 2 hours non-stop music, positive vibes, Christian to hip-hop, and a dope interview and a podcast.
I did not know they had Christian hip-hop shows. Well, folks, unfortunately I need to end this video early because I sent a picture of this to my buddy Brad, and he looked at it and said, "How much?" And I said, "It's yours, man," because Brad taught me a lot and he's helped me a lot, so I didn't pay anything for this, so he gets it for shipping. And he's gonna wrap this thing up on his YouTube channel, hopefully. This is me trying to convince him to make a video. He hasn't made one in a while, and he knows a lot more about this stuff than I do, so he's probably gonna go through and replace all those cracked little capacitors and get this thing to actually tune to stations properly and sound much better too. So, if you want to see that, I'll put a link to his channel in the description, and hopefully that comes out soon. Your move, Brad. So, thanks everyone so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this one, and I will see you in the next one.